Alex, what is domestic violence?
Domestic violence can, range from anything from emotional abuse, so it might be name-calling, which can really affect self-esteem, those kind of things, right up to very serious physical violence, which can lead to hospitalisation and everything. And because a lot of the time the abuser will give kind of messages that this is normal, this is right, a lot of people don't realise that actually it's not right, it shouldn't be happening. It can happen to absolutely anyone.
How big a problem is it in the UK? Is this something that happens a lot?
Yeah, I mean, at Childline we hear about it a lot from young people either suffering it themselves or their parents are suffering from it. The statistic that's used all the time is that 1 in 4 women actually suffer from domestic violence. When we look at young people, a quarter of teenage girls speak about a violent relationship.
Why does it happen? Why does this go on?
Really difficult question to answer, but lots of young people are under lots of peer pressure to be a certain way, to behave a certain way. Sometimes that can lead to controlling within a relationship, which then has a knock-on effect.
What can you possibly do if you're in a house and this is happening? Let's say your parents are fighting quite a lot. As a child, what steps can you take?
The biggest piece of advice that I could give them would be to speak to someone. So that's a trusted adult, so it may be a teacher at school, maybe calling Childline, but just identifying someone that you can speak to about it.
How can that help, though? Because you're seeing one of your parents being abused. You want to try and stop it or help in some way. Is talking to someone else really going to help the situation?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what we can do is we can speak about different options that they might have. So that may include things like speaking to the National Domestic Violence Helpline, maybe even contacting the police, social services, that kind of thing. So these are people who can take action, who can intervene in situations.
If someone's listening to this now and they're thinking that maybe they are being domestically abused, what steps would you recommend they take?
Well, it is, number one, to keep themselves safe. So kind of if they notice a situation arising, they notice that the situation is escalating, to kind of step away from that and take steps to take themselves safe. That might be about leaving the house, it may mean going to a different room in the house. The second thing is to speak to someone. So, there's the National Domestic Violence Helpline, which is a free phone, confidential service, 24 hours a day. If it's a young person, they can speak to Childline about what's happening. There's also the Samaritans.
What advice would you give to someone who is starting to feel violent themselves and is finding it difficult to control those feelings?
The number one thing is not to ignore it. This is something that can escalate, and before they know it, they're involved in an abuse situation, they are an abuser. It's really important that they speak out, that they seek help for themselves. There's lots of different organisations who will help with people who have these kind of feelings. For example, the NSPCC has various projects which will work with people who feel that they are maybe going to or are actually abusing someone.
This is another thing that I'm sure a lot of people at home who might be in a situation like this or might just be in very argumentative relationships. Where is the line? How do you know whether your relationship is one just filled with arguments? Because, to some people that is part of a relationship. How do you know when it goes too far?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I agree that something that we're definitely not saying is that if you argue a lot in a relationship that suddenly you're in a domestic violence or an abuse situation. And it's difficult to kind of judge when that happens, and I think that's where some of the trouble comes. However, if your partner is doing something to you, whether that be emotionally, physically, sexually, that number one is making you feel uncomfortable, but is also distressing you and is causing you harm, then that's when you need to think, okay, maybe I need to seek help here.
Another thought I'd imagine a lot of people in these situations will have, rightly or wrongly, they don't want to lose the partner. It's just this aspect of the relationship that they'd like to get rid of. Is it a certainty you're going to lose the other half if you take actions to try and help manage the temper or the arguments or the physical nature?
Absolutely not. I mean, I think that is the number one reason why a lot of people who are in domestic violence situations don't speak out, they don't seek help, because it is that fear of losing their partner, who at the end of the day they still love. What a lot of agencies will do, what a lot of the help out there is about, is supporting the relationship, is supporting both partners through the violence situation. So it doesn't necessarily mean that the relationship will be broken up. There is a chance that the relationship could survive.
So if you find yourself in any of these situations, who should you contact?
Well, first of all, if you're a young person under the age of 19, you can call Childline on 0800 1111. Also have a look on the website, which is childline.org.uk. There is also a domestic violence helpline, which is 24 hours. It's a free phone number. That's on 0808 2000 247. Also, if you are an adult, you can speak to the Samaritans about things like this as well. They're on 08457 90 90 90.
Brilliant phone numbers, and you should use them. If you want to call us here in the surgery, you can call us on 03700 100 100 or text us on 81199.
This is The Surgery with Alan on BBC Radio 1.
Right.